Okay, welcome back, VHDL. The last video was listing 3.1, which I have right here, and it was a priority encoder. Well, we're doing it in simulation mode, so the next step is to add a test bench file and simulate this guy, simulate the behavior. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. Okay. So select the project, and then say project new source. And I want a test bench file, and let's call this tb underscore priority encoder. Okay. And let's see, it's before it's a VHDL module, but now it's a test bench file because we're testing. We're setting up a test harness. And I prefix my test bench files with a TB there. Okay, so next. Now, when you create a test bench file, it says what component do you want to test? Well, we only have one component in this project, and typically projects have a lot of components. And the component we have is a priority encoder. It's already highlighted. There's only one, so just choose next. And then some information, and it'll stub out a test bench file. Okay. Now, you'll notice in the last video I called this listing underscore 3 underscore 1. I changed the name to priority encoder. I should have called it priority encoder to begin with. So I have a priority encoder. If I double click on this, that's what we did last time. We just added a test bench file, and because this test bench is going to be a test harness for the priority encoder, you have that indented kind of look and feel on your Explorer. Now it's stubbed out a priority encoder, but you notice there's a bunch of errors. Well, we kind of have to go edit the test bench file. And since, of course, we're dealing with limited real estate, you want to keep your comments in there, but since I'm doing videos and I have limited real estate, I take them out. Okay, we might need that guy, so let's hold that one around. Now, when you do a test bench file, all right, again, you don't have anything in your entity block. Okay, so your entity block is empty. You have an architecture block, and your architecture block is pretty much the entire what's left, the entire remaining part of the file. Okay, so let's go back up to the architecture block. Now, in a test bench file, you have to declare the component you're going to instantiate. So this is a component declaration. I use the component keyword. I use the name of the component I'm going to test, which is prio encoder. And then I basically copy its entity block right here that says it's got R input, P output. Okay. Now, I have to declare that because I'm going to instantiate it in this file. Now, my test bench also has some inputs. And what I like to do is I like to label the test bench variables with a prefix TB. All right, so it's got an R input, 4 down to 1. Okay. And then we're basically setting all those bits to 0 by doing the other statement. And then let's call TB P code. That'll be my output. Okay. Now, I'm not going to use any clocks. We haven't got to the point where we're using clocks in this course. So let's delete that. Okay. Now, up here in the area between architecture and begin is where we do all our declarations. Here I'm declaring the component. Here I'm declaring 2 local variables that are local to the test bench file. Now, in the begin in block, you have to instantiate the component. Okay. So what I can do here is I give it a label, and you could call that unit under test, or you could change the name U1, whatever. You can give it any name you want. Doesn't really matter. Okay. But then you have to give it the name of the component, okay, which was prio encoder. You got to use the port map. And then you have to take the variables of that component, which are R and P code, and then map them to the variables of this file. Well, that's why I changed the name of the variables in the test bench file, so you can kind of distinguish which variables are which. So this is essentially connecting wires, right? I'm going to take the signal, the R variable in the test bench file, and connect it to the R variable in the component, and the TBP code in the test bench to the P code in the file. Okay. Now, inside this process block, we have, or inside this begin in, we have process blocks. We're not doing anything with the clock, so let's get rid of that. And then down here, well, this is where we need to actually do our testing. Okay, so let's see. What we can do here is, let me see. Let's do this. What is it? I can't remember this. Assert false, report, or no, severity, report. I'm gonna have to pause this because I got to go back and look. I don't remember. Okay, so down here, the last thing, let's actually just delete this entire block here. Okay, now here is my process. There's my process. And what I do is I usually, at the end of this guy, let's put a comment statement in there. Terminate simulation. And I do assert false, and then I do a report, and I give it, some text string. Severity, and then we'll say failure. There's actually other severities here. Okay. So that'll basically end it. Now what I want to do here is actually do something. So what do we want to do here on this guy? Well, what are my test bench files? Let's see. This is what's coming into here, the requesters. Well, let's do that. Let's set TBR, we'll set that equal to nobody requesting. Okay. And then maybe I'll wait for, 20 nanoseconds? How's that? And then what I'll do is I will say R1 is requesting. Wait 20 nanoseconds. Now R2 is requesting. Oops. Okay, and then now R3 is requesting. And what I'll do here is I'll say, okay, R4 is requesting. And we'll see what happens. All right, let's do that. Let's save this guy. Oh, looks like we've got some errors. Let's find the first error here, 37. And there's my error right there. Yeah, should be double quotes. When you have more than one bit, it needs to be double quotes. Okay? And I copied and pasted that all the way down. Well, that was good. A little exercise in debugging there. Notice the errors went away. All right, let's go back and select priority encoder and just check that nothing changed there. All right, that's good. Let's select the test bench. Check to see if I typed everything right in the test bench. And now, with the test bench selected, and that's kind of a common error, make sure that test bench is selected. Double-click, simulate behavioral model. And let's see what comes up. I'm basically just changing the inputs of my test variable R, which is connected to my R variable in my component. And let's see what we get here. Yeah, let's kind of clean up some real estate so I can kind of see what's happening here. I'll bring this guy over a little bit here. I'll bring this guy over a little bit here. Now the reason I did that assert is so I can zoom to full view. Okay, and you can kind of see what's happening. We can open up these variables, and at this particular point in time, nobody is requesting. I can right click this and say go to radix and do binary and say, okay, look, nobody's requesting. R4, R3, R2, R1, no one's requesting. Okay, what's my output here? Well, my output's all zeros. Okay, so nobody's requesting. Then 20 nanoseconds later, R4 is 0, R3 is 0, R2 is 0, and then R1 is 0. So R1's requesting. So my P code says, hey, requester 1's requesting. And then here, requester 2 is requesting. So 2 is requesting. 3 is requesting. So I get a 3 out here. And then 4 is requesting. So I get a 4 out there. All right. So it looks like it works. But really, the decoder, the way we want to do that, let's close this guy. Do you really? Yes. And then do you want to save it? No, we can talk about that later. Let's come along here and test some other things. Let's say that R4 and R1 are both requesting. And let's say R4 and R2 are both requesting. And let's say R4 and R3 are requesting. And let's say all 4 of them want attention. All right. Save that. And let's go back and just make sure everything, my component didn't change. Sanity check. Select the test bench. Compile that guy. And then let's run the simulation. And let's see, we kind of scroll these guys down here. Zoom to full view, and let's open up these bits. Yeah, so at this point, my R is, my requester is all zeros. So the output P code is all zeros. Now let's change this guy to binary. And we'll change this one to binary. And at this point right here, notice R4 and R1 are both requesting. Well, who do we give it to when R4 and R1 are requesting? We give it to 4. And look right here. The value of P code is 4 at that point. Well, 20 nanoseconds later, R4 and R2 are requesting. Well, we still give it to 100. We still give it to 4. And at this point right here, 4 and 3 are requesting. Okay, so we still give it to 4. This point, all of them are requesting. We still give it to 4. So the whole point is P code never changes. Let's modify this last one to make it a little more interesting. Well, we'll make R4 go away and show that we changed to 3. All right, so let's do that. And down here, I'm going to change that last one so that R4 is no longer requesting. All right, let's save that. Make sure component didn't change. Test bench didn't change. And let's run it. Yeah, you want that assert false in there because that kind of works out nicely so that you can kind of come up to here and just do zoom to full view, and it'll kind of scan or zoom everything out to the entire extent of the screen. And then you can open these guys up and notice, yeah, let's again change them. Now see, when it asks you, do you want to save things? Well, you can save configuration so you don't have to constantly keep changing this. But if you look what happens, no one's requesting there, we get a 0. 4 and 1 are requesting, 4 and 2 are requesting, 4 and 3 are requesting, the output stays at 4. Okay, 4 is no longer requesting, but 3, 2, and 1 are, and the output goes to 3. So we've implemented our priority encoder. All right, I'm going to stop there, and we will see you next time.